Hi, welcome everyone to this presentation on marketing your experience. My name is Meredith Matherly, and we also have Coach Taylor Sparber with me today. We are two of your career coaches for American Public University and American Military University. So as we get this session started, I want you to keep a question in mind. If someone had to describe your professional value after maybe looking at your resume or your LinkedIn, or even hearing you talk for a few minutes, what would they say about you? Would they see a clear direction? Would they understand your strengths? Would they remember what makes you different, or would you blend in with everyone else? So this webinar is about learning how to intentionally shape that story so employers don't have to guess and you don't leave important opportunities on the table. So some of the things we're going to cover today, Taylor's going to get us started on what professional branding really is, and also how employers look at us and evaluate candidates. And then I'll jump in with how we can market our story through storytelling, creating our stories and where we can use them. Wrapping it up with maybe thinking about creating a portfolio. So Taylor's gonna jump in now with what is professional branding, and we'll get going today. Thanks.
Hi, everyone. I am Taylor. Thanks, Meredith, for the introduction. So we're going to start talking to kick this off. We're going to talk about what is professional branding. And I want you to think of it like this as, think of your personal brand as a story people tell about you when you're not in the room. It's how your skills, your interests, and your values show up in the work that you do. It's not just what you've studied, the internships you've had, or the titles that are on your resume. Those things open doors and meet those qualifications, but your brand is what makes you memorable. Once you're inside, it shows another side of you, your personality, determination, and your interest. So while credentials get you noticed, your brand's what makes people remember who you are and why you matter. And even those small choices when building your brand, like how you explain a project, the work that you post online, or the way you show up in a team, all contribute to that story that you're trying to tell with that brand you're trying to build. So your brand is your story, and the goal is to make it clear, consistent, and authentically you. So let's break this down in a practical way with building your professional brand for that employer impact, because that's what we're here. We're trying to figure out, right? We're trying to figure out how are employers noticing us, and how can we make that impact on how they view us and remember us. So if someone were to ask you, why should we hire you? Would you be able to answer that question with confidence and clarity? That answer comes from 5 connected pieces. So if you're not sure, that's totally okay. Let's think about this in these broken down steps. First, your professional identity. Who are you? What field are you in? What themes, industries, or problems are you currently focused on? Or what have you been focused on? This is how you define yourself professionally. It's your foundation. So that's going to be the first thing you're going to want to figure out. Second, your core strengths. What can you do well? What technical skills, soft skills, and experiences have you built? These are the abilities that allow you to perform, solve those problems, and contribute immediately into a job or an organization. The third thing is the value that you bring to the organization. And this is something that they are definitely going to be evaluating when building that professional brand, is what value do you bring? Not just those skills and experiences and the credentials. So how do your strengths translate into results? Do you improve processes? Do you increase efficiency, strengthen communication? Have you driven or do you drive revenue? Support teams? How do you do that? How do you go about it? Or do you analyze data effectively? Employers don't just hire those skills, they're going to hire those outcomes. So think about the value that you have brought or you bring to your organization. What is it? Is it any of those things I just listed? If so, expand upon that. If it's none of those things, think about, what do you do on a daily basis in your role, in your community, volunteer internships that has helped you to bring that value. The fourth is your career focus and direction. Where are you headed? So you might hear that question, where do you see yourself in 5 years? What is your career focus in that direction? What area are you intentionally developing? What have you been really focusing on? What are you trying to strengthen? Direction, that will show commitment. It tells employers you're not just looking for any job, you're building expertise with purpose. Oftentimes, I hear from students and they'll say, I want any job in cybersecurity, I want any job in health sciences, or any job in environmental science. I don't care what it is. That's the thing. Employers do care if you don't care. They want you to care about a specific focus for your career. They want to know what aspect of environmental science are you interested in? Is it conservation? Is it sustainability? Um, is it mapping? What a part of environmental science are you passionate about? Are you driven to improve? What direction do you see yourself headed in that industry? Same thing with cybersecurity. Where are you headed with that? In any industry, it can be, within arts and humanities. Is it history? What is your direction? Think about that. Employer impact. That's the fifth one to think about to really build that professional brand. What measurable or meaningful difference can you make or have you made? Impact is about contribution. It's a change that happens because you're on the team. What happens because you're a part of this team? Better performance, smarter decisions, stronger collaboration, greater innovation, a stronger team. What impact do you make on your organization? What is your contribution that you have contributed? So here's the key. Your professional story lives where all five of those aspects connect. You want them to all five tie together. So if someone were to ask you that question, why should we hire you? It's not just because you're a finance major. It's not just because you're good at Excel. It's not just because I work hard or I want to grow. It's a combination of who you are, what you're great at, the value that you deliver, where you're going, and the impact that you create. When you clearly connect all of these aspects together, your professional identity becomes more than just that title. It becomes a clear reason for someone to choose you, a clear reason for someone to remember you. So let's walk through how employers review and evaluate candidates. And I want you to think about yourself as we go. I want you to answer some of these questions I'm going to ask, or even jot them down and come back to them. So let's break this down clearly. A lot of students think employers only look at those qualifications like your degree, your GPA, what you've majored or minored in. But in reality, they're assessing so much more than that. So oftentimes I get students that come in and say, well, I have my bachelor's degree, I have my master's degree, but there's more than that degree. There's more than that GPA, even if it's phenomenal. So the first thing that these employers are going to be looking at are your skills and experience. Do you have the relevant knowledge? Do you have the hands-on experience in that field, or is it something that could be translated into that field? Can you show that you've built the competencies required for that role that interest you? Not just taken a class, but have you actually applied any of those skills from that job, that role that you want? The second thing, proven results. It's not just about what you've done, it's about what you've also achieved. Have you improved something? Did you lead something? Did you solve something? Employers care about outcomes, not just those responsibilities. And how you show that can be on your resume when you write your bullet points. A formula you can follow is, what did you do? How did you do it? And what did you accomplish? So those are going to be things that you want to show off. And same thing when you're going through an interview. You want to show that you have proven something, not that you just learned about it. The third is that problem-solving ability. In any industry that you go in any role, there's probably going to be some type of problem, whether it's kind of a minor one or it's a really, a big one. So let me ask you, when something goes wrong, what do you do? How to react? Can you think critically? Can you adapt to the situation? Are you able to handle those challenges? Organizations value people who can navigate that uncertainty and contribute to solutions. So think about how you go about these different things. Think of a situation that you've been a part of where there was a problem. What did you do? How did you contribute to getting that solved? What was the outcome of that? And it doesn't stop there with those different things. Employers are also looking for your overall value, fit, and credibility. So think about your communication style. And this goes a part of your brand too. How you communicate about yourself, so your tone, how others communicate about you as well. So think about your references, would that align? So do you clearly express yourself with your communication style on your resume, on your LinkedIn, in interviews, even in emails? Are you polished? Are you professional? Are you confident? Think about how you communicate with others. not just in those interviews, but across every area of an application, and how you network in your past and then your past colleagues. Now, here's a really big one. I've just touched base on a little bit is that consistency. If I compared your resume to your LinkedIn, your interview answers, and your references, would they all tell me the same story? Would I have the tone? Would I see the same type of language? Because inconsistency can raise that doubt. Consistency builds trust. And when I say consistency, I don't mean the exact same verbiage. That's not something you want. You just want it to all flow together and what you've done and demonstrate what you're passionate about, what you're going for. So that way it translates. Think about, again, would somebody, if somebody you knew read your LinkedIn profile, would they agree with that? Would they speak to that information as clearly and professionally and with enthusiasm as you did? So you want it to all be consistent with people who are speaking about you and how you write about yourself. So what about your professional reputation? So we're going to head right back and we're going to add that question in there since I just touched on that. If I called your previous manager or your professor, what would they say about you? Because your reputation can strengthen or weaken your credibility. You want to make sure that you're building that positive and professional reputation. And don't underestimate the attitude of professionalism. Are you prepared? Are you respectful? Are you coachable? Are you positive? Those are also skills that matter, that play into that culture, fit, and value that employers are evaluating about you beyond that degree. An attitude can often determine that long-term success. So did you have a good attitude in that course that you were in, right? Were you a part of that collaboration with your peers? Those things do matter. And there's alignment with company values. Every organization has a culture and a mission. They're asking, does this person align with how we operate? That's a big part of it. Will their personality blend in with what we're looking for based on what we're seeing across the board through application and references? Because employers, again, they aren't just hiring that talent, they're going to hire alignment. Are you trainable? Because there might be something they can train you on. You might not necessarily have all the skills and experience they're looking for, but if they see that you're trainable, that could be your step in. So at the core, hiring usually comes down to three big questions. Competence, can you do the job? Do you have the skills and experience to perform effectively? Culture fit, will you fit in here? Will you collaborate well? Will you adapt to the environment and contribute positively? Credibility, can we trust you? Are you reliable, honest, consistent, and professional? And here's the key part. Evaluation happens at every stage. It happens at your application, your online presence, your interview, and your references. So every interaction is a part of this decision and how they evaluate you. So it's not just about being qualified for the role. It's about demonstrating your value, showing alignment, and building that trust every step of the way. So I want you to ask yourself, are you just submitting applications or are you intentionally managing how you're being evaluated? I'm going to go ahead and pass it along to Meredith, where she can help navigate and how you can market this, these different types of evaluations.
Thanks, Taylor. Yeah, so we just heard a lot about how employers evaluate you. Again, not just on what you've done, but on your impact, your professionalism, your alignment, and your credibility. So here's the real question then. How do we show all that? Especially when, you might only have the chance to do that at first in a resume or a first impression at an interview or reaching out to someone to make a new connection to network. One of the most powerful tools you have that we're going to go into is you have your story. So stories can really, communicate who we are in ways beyond above a list of bullet points that can never really tell that. So one of the things I was thinking about when we were coming up with this was think back to your favorite teachers or professors in school. Why do they stand out to you the most? I know for me, it was not only the ones who, were the most engaging or supportive, but it was also how they taught with the use of stories over just, stating facts or reading from a book. Those stories were really what stuck with me. So before we go deeper, take a moment to think about when you think about this idea of marketing yourself, what part of storytelling really feels the hardest right now? It might be a little intimidating. Is it coming up with these stories, identifying them, um, figuring out how to structure it, talking about yourself? I know that's a big one. We hear a lot is like it's awkward to talk about yourself. You don't want to be sound arrogant, or at the same time, we can't be too humble. Or is it keeping it concise? Because I know we we can ramble and start going on tangents. So here's why storytelling matters so much. So, we're going to talk about how we can take those pieces and work on them because they're good for describing your responsibilities and they do have their place, but they don't always stick, whereas stories can really communicate your value. So they can help you go deeper into accomplishments, who you are, really helping employers see your problem solving ability, maybe your mindset, your strengths actually put into action, and your ability to create impact. Now, you might be thinking, I don't have any big dramatic stories, but I promise you do because they can come from any part of life. So, as you can see on the slide here, they can come from your previous work experience. Maybe it was even just, one day volunteering at an event. Um, a lot of us, military affiliated, your military service, class projects, research you've done, career pivots, successful pivots. So it can come from so many different places. And I promise you that all of you do have stories that you can pull from. And before we go to the next slide, where we'll learn exactly how to structure your stories, start thinking about one or two things that you're proud of, a strength that you have, something you're really good at. Maybe it's big, maybe it's something small. And again, it can be from any of these experiences. Maybe it's reorganizing or helping a customer service. That's huge. Fixing a process, completing a class project, coaching a teammate, anything at all that you feel that you are really strong in. Write a couple of those down. Think about it right now as we go into this next slide of how to create those stories. So now that you've identified a few moments you're proud of, let's talk about how we can turn those into stories. We use simple frameworks like the STAR or CAR method because they can help us keep your story focused and clear, which is exactly what employers need. They don't have time for figuring out how everything connects themselves. We want to make it as easy as possible for them. So maybe some of these frameworks look similar to you. This is often one that we recommend and that people use to prepare for interviews, but it can go beyond that as well. Let's break it down a little bit, like for the STAR method. How do we turn these into stories? So think about a specific situation, what was happening, a task, what needed to be done, the action, what did you do? And the result, what changed? What was the impact you created? So these short structured stories really help employers understand your competence, your thought process, and your outcomes. Because remember, they care about results, not just responsibilities. You can see a couple examples here on the slide of how we can start thinking about breaking those strengths and skills down into stories. So for example, maybe you volunteered at a food pantry. So that would be the situation. And the task was some clients were facing really long wait times. So you reorganized a client check-in process to reduce that. And after you did that, the result was the wait decreased by 30%. There you go. You have a story right there. And then the tie-in for each of these, when you're thinking about these stories, is really what is that big message you want to get across? What's your brand message? That's key. Your stories should reinforce that professional identity. So maybe it's improving systems to help people. Or for the next example that you can see, maybe it's showing that you're a strategic cross-functional leader. So think back to the strength or skill that you wrote down. And now, what was a specific time you put it into action? start turning it into your star story. And you'll come up with a few of these, and you can start seeing how your experience can turn into these clear, memorable stories. So let's look a little more into where these stories actually go and how we can use them to elevate your brand in the next slide here. So even though I mentioned interviews in the last one with the STAR method, they can be used in many more places than that. This is your multi-purpose brand tool, assets you can use across your entire job search. So you can see on the slide here, these stories can be used in your LinkedIn, in your about section. It helps to tell your narrative about who you are, what you want people to remember. They can be used in networking introductions to help, again, make you memorable. As resume bullets, starting with that strong action verb, using the quantifiable data when you can, they become your impact statements there. And in portfolios, which Taylor's going to talk about a bit, represented in your case studies or project summaries, putting all of these stories together. So if you come up with 3 to 4 signature stories, this is where the consistency part comes back in. We want those stories appearing across all of these places in their different forms so that those employers get that consistent, strong understanding of who you are. I'm going to give a couple quick examples where we can think about where these stories might be able to be used best. So here's some scenarios. For example, if you said, led a group project where we built a new workflow that cut processing time by 20%. Where could that example be used best? In this case, it's probably as a resume bullet or even a portfolio item. Because you can see it starts with that strong action verb. We have quantifiable data, and it fits into those to show your strengths really well in those places. But other ways that we could tweak them and think about, here's another scenario. I'm currently transitioning from hospitality into HR because I discovered how much I enjoy helping employees succeed. In this case, that might work best more in a networking intro. You can see it's more conversational, it's forward looking, where you want to go next, and it's all about motivation. It might even go well in your LinkedIn About section, too, if you add a little more detail. So you could say, what I said before, but then add on my experience in hospitality taught me the importance of supporting people, which led to my interest in HR. So lots of different ways that we can think about using these bullets, these examples, and how we can tweak them just a bit to be used in lots of different forms as well. So now that you know how to use your stories, let's zoom out and talk about the bigger picture, your online presence, because employers don't just read what you send, they will go searching for you. So your online presence is a big part of your professional brand. And whether you realize it or not, it is always being evaluated. So employers often Google candidates before they ever schedule an interview. And it doesn't have to be your goal to be everywhere. It's just you want to be visible in the right places. So take a second, open up your phone or another tab on your laptop and Google your name. What shows up first? Is it your LinkedIn profile? A social media, Instagram, Facebook? Is it someone else altogether with some shares your name? Is it something unexpected or something you didn't want people to see? It's good to know what will come up when they search for you. This gives you a baseline of what employers will see. So if you didn't find yourself or what came up first wasn't exactly what you want them to see first, here's a couple things you can do to make sure the right things come up when someone searches your name. One is to make sure to strengthen your LinkedIn profile because Google ranks that highly. And so that might come up as the first thing a lot of times if you have a full, completed LinkedIn profile. You can also consider creating a simple portfolio or a professional website. Here's a good one, publishing something under your name. So this could be, again, on LinkedIn or a blog post, a student publication, but also the university itself has APUS Edge, where faculty, staff, professionals, and even students can write articles and get published. So if that's something you're interested in, you could send ideas to that email, content@api.com, with opportunities to potentially write articles and be published with the university. Could also consider joining professional or academic organizations, membership pages, bios, mention spots show up prominent. These also show up prominently on Google. It's also important to remember to use consistent naming, the same version of your name across platforms. And clean up or lock down personal accounts that you don't want to be seen. Those Instagrams or Facebooks that you don't want people to be able to access that you don't know, make sure you check those privacy settings and change them accordingly. So since LinkedIn, we've mentioned that a couple times, it's often the first thing employers see on Google. Let's talk, we'll just get a little into how to align your brand there. So remember, employers spend only seconds scanning before deciding whether to click or move on with someone. So your LinkedIn really needs to communicate clearly your value, your direction, and your professional identity. Here are some key areas that we can focus on. Really, again, want to make that strong first impression when they enter your profile. You can do this by making sure you have a clear professional photo. Fill out that headline section completely. And if you didn't know, you can customize your URL. So you can take out all the extra numbers and letters in the public profile and URL section up on in your profile on the right. You can change that to usually just represent your name. You can work on telling your brand story in the about section. So highly recommend using the full um, word length of the about section to include those signature stories to show your strengths and motivations. So don't leave it blank or only put a couple words in there. Showcase your experience with that impact. So again, use achievement-focused bullets, not just a list of tasks you've done. Really highlight what you did to stand out. And demonstrate your brand through activity. So, don't just create an account and never do anything with it. Comment on other, people's posts, really build your network, share insights, post articles, share them. It really helps build credibility and build up that relevant network with people in your field. Great way to make connections, follow companies, follow industry leaders who you're interested in. And when you do complete that profile, if you didn't know, Hiration, our popular tool where you can create resumes and cover letters, is also available to provide a LinkedIn review, or your coaches can do that as well. So you are well on your way to building a strong online presence. I'm now going to turn it back to Taylor to talk about another great tool for marketing your experience, portfolios.
Thanks, Meredith. So let's walk through this together step by step when it comes to creating a portfolio. And there is a deeper dive on building an online portfolio as well here on YouTube. So I encourage you to check that out as well, as it does go deeper into this. But just to kind of give you a glimpse of what a portfolio is and creating one, I want you to first think about how is your experience usually presented. Most people rely on statements like, I am good at this, or I have strong skills in this area. And that's what resumes are built for, right? It's meant to show employers and other people that you network with what you're good at. I don't necessarily recommend saying I'm good at this or I have strong skills in this area on a resume if you want to imply that. But we want to show off a little bit more, right? And that's what a portfolio can do. It changes that conversation. The portfolio is the difference between saying, I am good at this, and being able to say, Here, let me show you. Let me show you that I am good at this, because anyone can list skills on a resume. Anyone can claim they're a leader, they're analytical, they're creative or strategic. They can claim, anyone can make those claims. A portfolio is what backs up those claims. It shows what you've worked on. It shows how you approach problems. It shows decisions that you have made, and it shows how you've improved over time, depending on how you have your portfolio set up. So that matters, because when someone can see your work, they don't just have to guess at your ability. They don't have to imagine your potential. They don't have to rely on those buzzwords that we claim to have when submitting that resume. They see the evidence because it's there in your portfolio. And in competitive spaces, as we know, right now is a really competitive job market. And often I'm hearing students saying, how can I stand out over these applicants? How do I make myself noticeable? Well, showing up and showing who you are is what helps make you noticeable and memorable. That's why we're trying to market yourself. That's why you're trying to build that professional identity. So in these competitive spaces, evidence builds trust faster than anything because you're able to prove it. So before we go further, one important clarification when we come to talk about portfolios, it's not about being perfect. It's about being real. It's about being intentional. And it's about being transparent on your growth. So think again of your portfolio as a receipt of your capability, proof that you can do what you're saying you can do. And that's, you might be saying you can do these things on LinkedIn. You might be submitting these resumes and you're saying you can do these things on your resumes. The portfolio is where you can show that work. So let's walk through what goes into a portfolio. And portfolios are going to look different for everyone in every industry, all the way down to how you have it designed. But typically, things that you find in a portfolio are projects that highlight your skills. These can be academic projects, freelance work, personal or professional projects that you have worked on that you're allowed to share when it comes to professional work. It doesn't have to be paid work. If the project demonstrates that skill that you want to be known for, it belongs. If there's something in the industry that you're striving to do, maybe you're new to it and you've been working on something on your own time, add it. So those are big pieces of works that you can add to a portfolio. And those projects should be framed somewhat like as case studies whenever possible, meaning you want to provide the context behind the work that you've been doing. So what was the situation? What was the problem you were solving? And what was your role? So those are things that you're going to want to provide. And then you're going to want to explain that process. How did you approach the work? How did you make those decisions? And then finally, the results. What changed? What improved? Or what outcome did you achieve? Or were you hoping to achieve? Because it doesn't always have to be projects or experiences that always resulted in a fantastic outcome. Maybe you learned that the approach you made wasn't the right one and you had to go take a couple of steps back. And that's going to show employers that you're willing to face those mistakes and go back and fix them and improve them, that you're not always perfect, because no one's perfect, right? So when thinking about those projects, I know I'm speaking into IT cyber. However, maybe there's a system, maybe you want to rebuild a computer. So what's the situation? Building a new monitor, building a new computer hardware system. What was the problem? Maybe the other one was too slow and you want to build a faster one. Maybe it wasn't completely secured. And explain your process and how you went and rebuilt that whole system or that drive, whatever it is that you did. Maybe it is something to do with history. Maybe you really love history. So you might go off and start researching some different documents based on the Civil War era, and you're trying to figure out some different things that happened, how you can go about presenting that to the public and communicating that. Maybe you created an event for it. So think about what the situation is. Is there a problem you're solving? And also what was your role? How you approached it, and what were those results? So that structure really helps people understand what you did, but also how you think. Volunteer work is also something that belongs in a portfolio. If you contribute time, skills, or expertise to support an organization or a cause, that counts. Show that work off. I actually value volunteer work pretty highly, because volunteering, you're not getting paid for it. You're doing it because you love doing it. And so a lot of times I see students put that I'm passionate on a cover letter, or, I really enjoy it. It makes me excited. Anyone can make those claims. Again, anyone can say that. But if you're volunteering, you don't need to say I'm passionate about the environmental science field. You can show it. I volunteer 5 hours a week down as a ranger. That's all you got to do. It shows you're committed. Um, and along with various other skills and love for that field or what you're doing. So volunteer work, it belongs there on that portfolio. It shows initiative, it shows value, it shows real world application of skills. Your portfolio can also include relevant media, which means it can be screenshots, reports, presentations, photos, writing samples, videos, podcasts, whatever helps someone see what you've been working on over time or what you've been doing. So maybe you are working on some type of project and you're going to want to record that step by step, what you've been doing. Maybe you have been out volunteering. You're going to take pictures of where you're at volunteering and then write a little blurb about what you did that day or what was accomplished that day or what you're working towards, right? Maybe you love talking. I love talking. So maybe podcasting is something that you go for and you want to put that up there, your audio. So the goal is clarity when it comes to these portfolios, a professional appearance, of course, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Polish just enough to show who you are, show that personality, show off your identity. And then some other things that are optional. All those things I just mentioned are also optional. It depends on what you're going for and what you're trying to show as your brand. But in a portfolio, you can also include those testimonials or references. So both of those things are not included on a resume anymore. So this could be a great place to show off who you are and hear that consistent voice, right? So you might have a professor or someone you worked with on a project, like a peer, or if you have been volunteering or interning somewhere, a client, anything like that. You can add those to that portfolio. And again, they're not required, but they can add credibility when someone else confirms the value of your work that you've been contributing on. Now, one thing to keep in mind as you build this, it's not going to be about quantity. So you don't want to provide, every project every academic project or research paper you've worked on your portfolio, maybe unless you're going for some type of faculty role, and that would be a great way of showing off some work that's relevant to what you're trying to teach. Again, that's going to be situational, but you don't have to provide a long list of projects. It's going to be about quality. You need strong, relevant examples that connect clearly to where you're trying to go next. And a good portfolio is intentional. It feels intentional. It's not just a big old storage folder. It feels like a story about who you are and the direction you're headed, right? Because that's something that employers evaluate you on, your career direction. So once that portfolio is built, visibility matters. And a portfolio is only as helpful if people, it's only helpful if people see it. So 2 ways that you can go about this. First, you can include the link to your portfolio in your About section in LinkedIn. You can share it through, different posts that you make. Hey, I got my portfolio together. Please check it out. That makes your work easy to find. It's viewable. The second, you can share your portfolio, pieces of your portfolio on LinkedIn or any other site that you're on. Maybe you're part of professional organizations and there's discussion forums and you might add a project you've worked on there. You're making it visible. Another way that you can add it is on your resume. If in your header section, you have your name, bold it right there, beautifully centered at the top, your address, your city and state, not your full address. That's not necessary. We can get into that in a resume review, but your phone number, and then you add your portfolio link up in there. So that way people can check out your work. So those are some ways that you can start sharing off that portfolio to make it visible. And when you are sharing that work on these different social medias or networking platforms, you're going to want to explain what you did, what you learned, and why it matters, especially if you're just sharing that one piece of your project. You want to show your process. And the key takeaway from this is a resume, it only goes to the jobs you apply for, but that portfolio can be seen by recruiters. It can be seen by professors and collaborators and others who haven't even met you yet. They might see your work and those opportunities might come to you because they've seen that work, because it's more visible. And that might bring you more opportunities to show what you're capable of. And that's really the real value of a portfolio when you're creating one and why you should go about it. So let's wrap this up. We've learned a lot of great information today, and I want to encourage you for some next steps this week or, this month, whatever it may be, to start working on your signature story by using the star card method. Update maybe one brand touch point, such as LinkedIn, your LinkedIn about section, a resume bullet point, maybe looking into creating a portfolio or just an item you want to add to your portfolio if you already have one. You want to use I encourage you and challenge you to use your story in one conversation, a networking introduction, a coffee chat, an informational interview. You can utilize reflection questions when it comes to creating your professional brand and marketing it by asking, what story represents or best represents who I am professionally right now? Where am I not being consistent in how I present my brand? And what impact do I want employers or colleagues to remember me about? Start asking yourself those questions to start building up your brand. Start creating that signature story and using that story in a conversation. I want to thank you all for listening in on marketing yourself and your experience on this webinar. And I encourage you to please reach out if you have any questions to careerservices@apus.edu. If you're looking for some resume assistance, resume help at apus.edu or via phone. Thank you for joining us and joining Meredith and I on this webinar today, and would love to connect with you and hope this was helpful for you.